Let's look at another example from the Old Testament, and that'd be Daniel. Daniel don't have all five of the top qualities of a Christian masculine man, but he's got multiple of them. Let's go to Daniel 2, where he's addressing Nebuchadnezzar's dream. In Daniel 2, verse 14. Then with counsel and wisdom, Daniel answered Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, who had gone out to kill the wise men of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, "Why is the decree from the king so urgent?" Then Arioch made the decision on Daniel. So Daniel went in and asked the king to give him time that he might tell the king the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house and made the decision known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions. That's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, but they have different names than their Hebrew names. That they might seek mercies from the God of heaven concerning this secret, so that Daniel and his companions might not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Then the secret was revealed to Daniel in a night vision, so Daniel blessed the God of heaven. And let's fast forward to verse 24, where he actually addresses the dream. Therefore Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus to him, "Do not destroy the wise men of Babylon. Take me before the king, and I will tell the king the interpretation." Then Arioch quickly brought Daniel before the king and said thus to him, "I have found a man of the captives of Judah who will make known to the king the interpretation." The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, "Are you able to make known to me the dream which I have seen and its interpretation?" Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, "The secret which the king has demanded, the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, and the soothsayers cannot declare to the king. But there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets. And he has made known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what will be in the latter days. Your dream and visions of your head upon your bed were these." I'm not going to read it out, but just the qualities itself. Daniel was decisive and a straight shooter when addressing Nebuchadnezzar's dream. He addressed him right there. He wasn't scared about losing his life or anything of the like. So with that into consideration, that speaks volumes of him being able to stand up for his friends, knowing that, well, I'll take that. And in some ways, you could say that's dominance, because he's willing to have their best interest at hand and lead this whole situation with humility. So you could say he was decisive, a straight shooter, and dominant in taking consideration of the whole situation. Now let's go to Daniel 6. This is where there's a decree out from Nebuchadnezzar, or Darius rather, who puts out a decree about anybody worshiping anybody else but him. So let's start in verse 6. So these governors and satraps thronged before the king and said thus to him, "King Darius, live forever. All the governors of the kingdom, the administrators and satraps, the counselors and advisors, have consulted together to establish a royal statute, to make a firm decree that whoever petitions any god or man for 30 days except you, O king, shall be cast in the den of lions. Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writing, so that it cannot be changed, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which does not alter." Therefore King Darius signed the written decree. Now when Daniel knew that writing was signed, he went home, and in his upper room, with his windows open toward Jerusalem, he knelt down on his knees 3 times that day and prayed and gave thanks before his God, as was his custom since early days. Then these men assembled found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. And they went before the king and spoke concerning the king's decree. "Have you not signed a decree that every man who petitions any god or man within 30 days, except you, O king, shall be cast in the den of lions?" The king answered and said, "The thing is true, according to the law of the Medes, the Persians, which does not alter." So they answered and said before the king that Daniel, who is one of the captives from Judah, does not show due regard for you, O king, or for the decree that you have signed, but makes his petition 3 times a day. He was assertive. He was bold when he decided not to follow the decree. He knew of it. I guess you could say he's decisive in the sense too, because he had his mind made up he's going to worship God instead of the king. So he displayed decisiveness and being assertive to not follow a pagan or ungodly decree, to still worship the God of heaven, the God of Israel. Let's continue on to verse 16 through 23. So the king gave the command, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. But the king spoke, saying to Daniel, your God, whom you serve continually, he will deliver you. Then a stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the signets of his lords, and that the purpose concerning Daniel might not be changed. Now the king went to his palace and spent the night fasting, and no musicians were brought before him. Also his sleep went from him. Then the king arose early in the morning and went in haste to the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried out with a lamenting voice to Daniel. The king spoke, saying to Daniel, Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions? Then Daniel said to the king, O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths so that they have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him. And also, O king, I have done no wrong before you. Now the king was exceedingly glad for him, and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no injury whatever was found on him, because he believed in his God. He was composed in accepting his punishment. He knew that following God came with risks, as did Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in Daniel 3, and he accepted it, and God delivered. So Daniel remained steadfast, and God rewarded him.